So the meta-analysis that I analyzed was a meta-analytic comparison of self-reported and other reported organizational citizenship behaviors written by Nichelle Carpenter, Christopher Berry, and Lawrence Houston in December 2013. The purpose of this meta-analysis was to examine how accurately one's self-ratings compared to the ratings of coworkers or supervisors. The authors had built eight hypotheses based on three original lines of evidence to be researched. The first was to examine the extent to which there are differences in the mean levels of OCB reported by self-raters relative to other raters, such as their coworkers. This provides insight to the extent that self-raters overreport their OCBs. The second was to meta-analyze the correlation between self-rated and other rated OCBs to determine the extent to which self and other ratings of OCB are related and reflect shared information. The third and final line of evidence was whether self-ratings and other ratings of OCBs have similar or different relationships with theoretically relevant correlates. This contributes to the understanding of the construct-related validity of self and other rated OCBs. The predictors of the study, in order to locate primary studies, the authors keyword searched 18 different behaviors, including altruism, citizenship performance, civic virtue, conscientiousness initiative, and sportsmanship, but they only ended up using 13 for the meta-analysis, categorizing 10 dimensions of OCBs under OCB individual, organization, and just general. The criteria of the study was self-reported and other reported overall OCBs, as well as self-reported and other reported dimensions of OCBs, such as altruism, citizenship, sportsmanship, etc. For the population of the meta-analysis, there wasn't a specific population. Instead, the authors originally found 42 studies with 44 independent samples from those keywords that they searched. Of these samples, the authors only published 33 of them, and the other 11 were not used in the study. The authors did, however, split raters into subgroups based on if they were self-reporting their OCBs, reporting on others' OCBs, or they were a supervisor reporting on their subordinates' OCBs. There were a few different corrections in the meta-analysis. The first was a correction not performed by the meta-analysis authors themselves, but by a primary study author, Lapine. In there, his 5 dimensions of OCBs, altruism, courtesy, sportsmanship, civic virtue, and compliance, all had an average corrected score of 0.67. And so this kind of called the narrowness of those 5 dimensions further into question. The authors of the current meta-analysis used 2 corrections, the first using alpha reliabilities for self-ratings and other ratings, while the second used alpha reliabilities for self-ratings and inter-rater reliabilities for correcting other ratings. However, this is a very poor way of doing corrections because the authors simply took reliabilities of many different studies and averaged them together. And as we know, reliabilities are very specific to their sample, so to simply average them out and apply it is not an efficient way to correct. The corrected validity coefficients for measurement of the mean distribution were only slightly higher than the uncorrected coefficients, and so that resulted in a lower level of usefulness for us. However, the inter-rater reliability coefficient was relatively much higher than the measurement coefficients, resulting in a more reliable and useful coefficient for analyzing OCB ratings. There were 2 different moderators in the study, with the first being a measurement moderator, where a rating was either given antithetically, which is reverse wording, or on a certain type of response scale, such as an agreement scale or frequency scale. The authors performed moderator analyses during 3 different scenarios, with the first being when the percentage of variability accounted for by statistical artifacts was less than 75%, when the variability in corrected correlations or d-values was large enough to suggest the presence of a moderator, or when at least 3 independent samples were in each moderator category. I had expected moderators to affect nearly every single type of OCB, but upon further review of the data table, moderators only affected the size of the mean differences for organizational citizenship behaviors in the organization. To wrap it up, I don't believe that the effect of this study would likely generalize to business students or recent graduates, just because as individuals entering the full workforce for the first time, college graduates have they have some idea of proper OCBs, but their understanding of how to really perform OCBs in a company pales when compared to employees who have been in one or multiple organizations for most of their adult life. Those with more experience in the workforce, and so because new graduates would lack the mental know-how to accurately rate themselves compared to how the rest of the company does, that makes this a very tough way to analyze OCBs with new college graduates.